whether that immune response falls off over time. And we don't know yet whether we might need booster vaccines a year, 2 years, or 5 years down the line. So again, it's just, you know, taking necessary precautions so that we don't get into a position where things get out of hand again, and you know, it becomes very difficult to manage. So if we've been vaccinated, yeah, things are going to be eased off, but I think we just, you know, need to be careful. And from time to time, you know, there will be pockets around the country where there may be small outbreaks, and there might be more stringent measures of, you know, greater restriction in those localities, like we saw, for example, in Ipswich, in Leicester and Ipswich, last year, you know. So that shouldn't put people off. I mean, when people say, well, why should I have the vaccine if there's going to be restrictions in terms of how we do things, having to wear face masks, just as we are now? Well, look, you need to have the restrictions because your immune system might not be as good. Okay, the restrictions won't be as stringent as they have been. As you can see, the lockdown, measures have been eased already, and hopefully we're going to go towards normality in the next couple of months. And you should have the vaccine, because the vaccine, if you did get the virus, the vaccine will stop you from getting a serious illness that may require you to be admitted to the intensive care units, and sadly, that may lead to you losing your life.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. We're going to move on now to our key topic for the day. But it seems to see, from what I've gathered there, obviously, all the tendencies for various reasons, if we have 90% achievement in terms of vaccine achievements, then that's gold standard, because that's what, you know, we have over currently nearly 82 more million people in the UK, okay, coming up to 85 million people in the UK, or is it more?
Percent, yeah.
You understand? So if we can have, and from all of those 82, not 82 million, 82 million people are not registered with GP. And even those who are registered with GP, if you have 10 people who are registered with GP in their lifetime, maybe only 4 to 6 will visit the GP, even if they're registered. So it's one of those things where the UK, Israel, and all the other countries across the globe that are doing well in terms of achieving success with the vaccination, it's basically testament to the media power, the government's hard work, and in terms of also the willingness of the people, because we cannot beat down everybody or beat down ourselves, even to our brothers and sisters who are falling into the tendencies category that don't want to take it. As you've rightly highlighted, there will always be somebody who wants to say no to anything or everything, you understand, because it's just part of their natural lifestyle. But it's about galvanizing as many people to come on board, you know what I mean, so to speak. And also, we've looked at it that just because those of us who have had it, does not mean that we need to let our guards down, so to speak. We need to just maintain, comply, and because there's a lot going on, you highlighted that we still don't know a lot yet. We're still trying to find out more. So even with 2 vaccinations, like I said to you, for me, Doc, I get for country, the second jab was harder. You know what I mean? Like, I think they strengthened the dose. The second jab I took 2 Wednesdays ago, it knocked me for 6. Seriously, like, but because of a strong immune system.
I think your immune system was just working. That is a sign that your immune system is working.
Oh, fantastic. Well, if it's coming from you, I'm happy with that. You understand? But it looked like, so whether you're going to take the AstraZeneca, whether you're going to take the Pfizer, whether you're going to take the Moderna, whether you're going to take the Johnson & Johnson, or whether you're going to take the Sierra Leone Mabela injection, whichever injection you're going to go for that has been developed, you know what I mean? Because I know Connaught Hospital is working on one. Don't take my word for it, I'm just joking. Or is it the doctors too are working on one? Which one should I go with? Doctors too.
Yeah, you never know. Dr. T is doing great, wonderful things. But yeah, I mean, I think when you mentioned 82 million, I think what you meant was 82% of the population.
82%, that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Just in case someone.
Yeah. So viewers, if you're watching us, welcome. We're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. Diaspora Voices SL. Please, 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 please follow, subscribe, and like. We've got our doctor with us here. Only they come 110 for months. So at the start of the month, which I said, to get you started, to build you up so that your health and well-being, your sanity is geared up so that you can face the month. So we got him once every Monday, the first Monday of each month. And so he delivers this program specifically tailoring it to your needs. So this is Dr. Achmed with Doctor to You, live on Diaspora Voices. So we'd like you to get involved. My brother DJ Ish is not here today because, as you know, he will be leading the presentation. So DJ Ish is not here today, but he will return next week on the program. And I want to say thank you to Vamba for stepping in last Monday as well. But the Vamba is not available tonight as well. So hence the reason why you can hear clatter there, nakinya, banyara, because usually I'm behind the scene producing and then chipping in. But now I have to come back and do what I did in my old role, presenting the show. But I'm so glad this particular topic is right up my street. So if you want to join us on the program tonight, I can see all the people that are joining us. Koki Mobi, Teens, Gistok, Teens. This is one of my boys. That's Shabsi. Shabsi, my own artist in Sierra Leone. And Auntie Betty Fala, Aminata Bangura, Grace Kamara. All of you guys are following us live on the program. Please continue. Nene Ami is watching. Bless you, son. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all the people that are watching the program so far. So thank you, thank you. But the number is there. You can also call once we start our main topic tonight. And it's now 9 o'clock, and I can safely say we're going to talk about a topic. So it's the contact number is 07951 213 881. That's 07951 213 881. That's the number to call, and you'll be able to have the opportunity to ask Dr. Achmed any questions you want on our topic tonight. Even if you want to come back to what we just discussed, a quick summary of the coronavirus and the vaccines. And I know many of you wanted to find out about, just to break down Boris Johnson's short news conference earlier. And the good doctor has analyzed it and summarized it for us. So thank you for that. So people, tonight, our main topic is about fertility, infertility, questions and answers. Okay, so it's fertility, infertility, question and answers. We've got quite a lot to try and cram up in the next hour and 15 minutes whilst we've got Dr. Achmed. So please feel free to engage in this topic, because it's something that Dr. Achmed looks at and we review, we discuss it behind the scene, we plan, and these are topics that we all know as a community, the Afro-Caribbean community, many of us shy away from, but we want to engage into it. We don't know where to turn, even to go and see our GP privately, because if you're a man, you go meet a young doctor that is under the age of 30 or 35 years old, and then you're thinking, oh my goodness, I want to go talk to this doctor, say, that's what happened to me. Or if you're a woman, how are you going to start breaking down to a male doctor? All of those issues will be explored tonight. So we're going to talk about how common is fertility or infertility amongst men and women. We're going to talk about infertility, whether a woman problem, whether a man problem, because we see this in so many households, the issues that it causes, breakdown of marriages, relationships, and all of that stuff, because we're going to try and explore that. So bear with us tonight. We're also going to look at how long should we try to, if you are, for example, if you're in a relationship, and I hate to say this word, you know what I mean, because it's like it bugs my life, because when, in terms of conceiving, when a woman cannot conceive, and then they say the woman will forget belly, you understand? But how long, when I'm in this, I'm going to say conceiving in both male and female. You know, missing at the man for carry the belly, but you know what I mean, the chemistry has to work. What are the issues? What are the strains? Before you have to go and see the doctor and say, you know what, we don't try one bam, thank you, ma'am, so many times. We don't try the slow motion tactics. We don't try all kinds of things. But I think so. Go see Dr. Achmed on Doctor to You. You understand? So all of that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what are the signs and symptoms that you need to identify. You know what I mean? Actually, before you start thinking, is this, you know what I mean? Am I not getting to 12 o'clock anymore? Why am I hanging just at 6:30 and can't get to 12 o'clock? You know what I mean? Or 11:45, you know what I mean? Why are you always hanging down there? You understand? So we're going to talk about this, and this works on both sexes as well. We're also going to try and talk about, whether that's what they call age. Does age matter? You know what I mean? In terms of having the issue with fertility or infertility, so to speak. And if age matters, where does the age become more significant and more apparent? Is it where they can talk, say, there's a common theme which we get to know about people that say, women get biological clock. But what about men? Do men not have biological clock? All of that, the good doctor is here to discuss that. And then we're also going to look at what fertility testing should our fertility doctor perform. So like, for example, now you don't go to the doctor. It's important that you see a doctor, because the doctor, the GP, which is general practitioner, it says exactly what it says on the tin. It's somebody who has got a vast array of knowledge in so many areas, but may not be, specialist in a particular field. There will be specialists in one particular field, which the doctor himself can tell us about, because as you know, he's passionate about respiratory, he's passionate about kidney. These are something that if you have any respiratory issues, if you have any kidney issues, and then you go to see him in his GP, you are very, very grateful because he will support you. However, it doesn't mean that he's limited on other knowledge in other areas, but he might be able to signpost you to a fertility doctor who is an expertise in that area. We're going to look at all of that as well. And finally, we're going to talk about things like treatment methods for infertility issues and any questions that you may have about those treatments, and how can we improve the quality of our sperm, egg sperm, and then making sure that the mojo is actually always full of the bag, not empty. You know what I mean? When you say the bag not empty, you're not just gonna water, you go, you swim no more. Then when you come out, you get also salt in your body. You know what I mean? You need to make sure that by the time you go inside the well, where you come out, you clean. You don't left all thing inside it. You get me? So all of that we're going to explore, and we're going to talk about how well can we check our eggs, and how often, how regularly do we know? And for women, do we know our cycles very well? Because it's important that a woman know their cycles, because if you try to get pregnant or you try to get belay and you don't know when and how, and then you don't know your cycle very well, and then you keep hitting and missing, maybe you as a woman don't know that period when you say, this is my most sterile moment, this is my most fertile time. You understand? It's important to know all of that. And then you see what I say? It's a packed food. That's why we couldn't start it at 8 o'clock, because we wanted to make sure the kids are on holiday, the safeguards are here, and we want you to get involved. And then finally, we got so much more, but I would leave the good doctor to talk about it. Those are the kind of things I want to put to you today, Obra. So are you ready for it?
Let's go. I'm ready.
So, like, brace yourself. Have you strapped yourself? You got your stamp-proof vest. You got your safety belts on. You've got your harnesses. You've got your head helmets. Make sure that you don't hit the wall and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm up. I'm ready to go.
Okay. So let's keep the ball on. Let's keep the ball rolling. And obviously, I'm not going to forget tonight, because I know my parents are watching. It's my stepdad's birthday tonight, so I'm not going to forget you, bro. Just sit back, relax. I'll come to you later. So if you're watching Grandad Ayo, I'm coming to you later in the show. First of all, I'm the good doctor. What is fertility or infertility? What does that mean in a simple statement, description, whatever way you want to put it, so that the lamest man across the diaspora will understand?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, what I want to do first, if you don't mind, is just talk through what happens in the normal process of conception. So, what happens when a woman is able to conceive? So, when the sperm fertilizes the egg. That's the normal process. So if we understand the normal process, then it's going to be really easy to talk about all the other things that are going on that might not be going right. Okay, so it happens so often that we take it for granted, but it's a very complex process. So at some point, the sperm, as we all know, the sperm from the man has to meet. So a healthy sperm, not just any sperm, has to meet a healthy, viable egg from the woman. And when they meet, that process of fertilization takes place. They form the very first cell that then divides and eventually makes a human being, and we grow up to become the people that we are after birth. Now, So that sperm is produced in the testes, okay, within the testicle in a man, and they've got to survive. They've got to survive there until they're released, and they're released through little tiny tubes that go through, things called the vas deferens, seminal vesicles. And when a man has an ejaculation, okay, this might be during intercourse, or it might be through masturbation. If they're, for example, donating their sperm, they release the sperm, they release the sperm, or they release the semen. Now, and then you hope that in that semen, you're going to have the right condition, the right pH level, so the right acid alkali level, the right volume, the right concentration, and you're going to have this sperm moving forward, okay, not just sitting there, not dead, because some of them die straight away. And then you have intercourse, it's released into the woman, and that sperm has to make its way and survive, and they can survive for up to 7 days, make its way, and then you've got to then survive long enough to meet an egg. The sperm, the strong ones can survive for up to 7 days in a woman. Now, and then the egg has to be produced by the woman. Now, you've got to notice, when a woman is born, the woman has all the eggs that they're ever going to have in their lives, okay? So all the eggs that a woman will ever have in their lives is there when they're born. So if you're only given like a small amount of egg, now that's all you'll ever have, okay? And you'll keep having ovulation, but if you run out of egg, you may then go into early menopause, okay? So, or what we call premature ovarian failure. So your ovaries, in the woman has 2 ovaries, just like how the man has 2 testicles. The ovaries make eggs, and they release an egg every single month once the woman hits puberty. And this carries on for roughly 30-35 years until they hit menopause. They keep producing 1 egg every single month approximately, and that egg has to be a healthy egg. That egg has to then get in from the ovaries into little tubes called fallopian tubes, and you've got to hope that there is no blockage in these tubes, and they can make their way and at the right time meet the sperm. So not only has the egg got to be healthy, survive, make its way to meet the sperm has also got to be healthy, survive and swim its way to meet the egg, and then fertilization happens. So what is infertility? Infertility is when couples have been trying to have a baby. When couples have been trying, and it's getting to like 1 or 2 years and haven't been successful at all, and have never previously had, neither of them have ever previously had a baby, or the woman has never been pregnant. When that happens, that we call that infertility. Infertility meaning they've never shown signs of being fertile, of showing the ability to give birth to a child. Now that can be a really, really difficult situation, really difficult, emotional circumstance for any couple. And couples who've had babies know how emotional it can be, because it was probably very emotional when they were trying until it happened. There's a lot of pressure. Now, subfertility is when perhaps the woman has been pregnant at times in the past, or the man has had a baby in previous relationships, or even in that relationship, they've had a child before, but they're now struggling. They've been trying for a year, 2 years, and they're struggling, haven't been able to succeed at all. So there's previous evidence of fertility, but now they're struggling. So we call that subfertility, okay? Well, how we investigate it is pretty much the same. Now, what's really important to bear in mind, so you get, I often get newlyweds who would come and say, oh, we've been really trying to have a kid for the last 1 month, for the last 2 months, or even the last 6 months. Nothing has happened, and they're really panicking. And stress, and we'll talk about this in a sec, stress doesn't help your chances of conceiving at all, both for the man and the woman. So let me give you some figures. When couples are having regular sexual intercourse, and by regular sexual intercourse, we mean every 2 to 3 days. So that's approximately 3 times a week. When couples are having regular sexual intercourse 3 times a week, and that's work. If you do the math, that's 156 times a year. when you're having sexual intercourse at least that regularly, only 80%, yeah, so only 8 out of 10 couples will actually successfully conceive at the end of 1 year, right? So when people have been trying for like a month, 3 months, don't panic. It doesn't always happen so quickly. Just be relaxed and give it time. Statistics show that 80% will be successful at the end of 1 year. But that also means that 20% are not successful, even at the end of 1 year of trying. Now, if you look at 2 years of data of trying, of couples trying to have a baby, having, again, regular sexual intercourse 3 times a week for 2 years, only 90% of couples will actually succeed. So 10% won't, and those are the ones that we usually then fall into the category of infertility, subfertility, and might need further tests, more detailed history investigations to find out what might be going on or what might not be going on, because it doesn't always mean that there is a problem. We need to then dig deep and find out what's been happening. Okay, so there's a couple of things I've mentioned there. The sperm's got to really navigate a very difficult course. Okay. And it can get blocked, it might not be healthy, and it might not get into the woman at the right time of the month. Now, the woman has got to produce an egg, has got to navigate a difficult course through the fallopian tube, and if there are no blockages, then it's going to be there at the right time for a sperm to be there for fertilization to take place. And then the final thing is you need to have intercourse regularly. So the other scenario is you have couples who one person lives in another country or in another city, and they see each other perhaps once every couple of months. Okay, and they say, well, we're worried, nothing is happening, but they're having maybe sexual intercourse once every 2 months, once every 3 months, once every 6 months. Okay, now if you look at the stats that I showed you, 156 times a year, and only 80% will conceive. If you're having sexual intercourse once every 2-3 months, then your statistics, your chances just of naturally conceiving is going to be much, much, much smaller. So how is that for a start?
That is what I call breathtaking to the point at which I have to say, I don't know, like literally, it's just, you've just blown my mind. Like, doctor, you've just blown my mind. But I'm going to be selfish because I'm a guy, and I'm going to tell you one of the stats that absolutely captures my head is what you've just said about doing it 3 times a week. And then what did you say? It worked out to be when? How many times in a year?
Yeah, 156.
156 times in a year. Right. Okay. There are many households where that your stats is not recognizable at all. So let's not just even think about that for several other reasons, health related, other underlying issues, so many. But on a more serious note, you don't see that as in an average household, even though that's what the good doctor will say, or the love doctor will advise. You probably don't see that in a very household, because if you have a different work shift pattern or not. But that was a fascinating stats anyway that came I will take away from this. But also I want to already you've kind of you've opened and closed the program, so I'm concerned now. Do we even have time?
There is a lot to come. There is a lot to come.
Let me go to the viewers, because we're having a significant number of viewers, and I want to say thank you to all the viewers that are actually watching the program so far. I can see that you are all prepared for this, and this is where I needed my younger brother, who's the main presenter, because I have to dive in and dive out. But we've got significant number of people that have joined us so far. Again, that are watching the program. And if you are watching the program and you're really fascinated about what's going on tonight's show, please feel free to ask Dr. Achmed any question on our topic, which is fertility, subfertility, and infertility, which in a way is just summarized, is just open, middle, and close the whole topic that we're going to talk about. But obviously, with every topic, if you get the whole of the cow, the cow may look good, but you still have to break down the cow, the head, the leg, the tail, and so on and so forth of the cow to be able to appreciate how big and how beautiful that cow was. So he don't tell you about how the cow look good and everything. Now let's go into breaking it down. And I asked the question at the start of it, and I think you've kind of answered the question about fertility, infertility, and subfertilities. And let's talk about, again, something which you touched on briefly. How common is infertility, and which one of the sexes is it more or most common in? Is it the man, the woman?
Yeah, it's a very, 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 very important question, because I'll tell you, most of the time, the person in the relationship that tends to go and see the doctor, from my experience and from a lot of other colleagues' experience, is a woman, right? You know, because I think there's a lot of pressure on women that the onus is on them if pregnancy doesn't occur. But the real truth is that where we know that what the cause is, 50% of the time it's a male problem. Okay, it's a male infertility problem. 50% of the time it's a female infertility problem. And in terms of how common infertility is in general, about 1 in 7 couples experience infertility or suffer from infertility in the UK. And that works out to be about 3.6 million people in the UK that experiences infertility in their relationship. So where it occurs, 50% of the time, it's a male infertility problem. 50% of the time, approximately, it's a female infertility problem. About 20 to 25% of the time, we just, when tests are done, initially, we, as GPs, there are lots of tests that we do to find out whether you need further tests. A lot of the time, then, you know, about 20, 25% of cause is not found. And depending on what the underlying cause is, whether it's male or female cause, that determines, you know, what the treatment is.
Interesting. Fantastic. So basically, what you're saying here, it's a 50-50 thing based on the average setting.
Absolutely. It is a 50-50 thing. And look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the man has had children in a previous relationship. Likewise, it doesn't matter whether the woman has had children in a previous relationship. What matters is what's going on at this particular time with both couples. And so it's really, really important that both couples, so it's a couple thing. It's really, really important that the couple get investigated, not just one person. Otherwise, we won't get to the bottom of the problem.
So thanks for that, Dr. Achmed. You know, in terms of commonality of infertility, because I want to have, am I permitted to ask sub-questions on each question? Because I'm conscious that there's quite a lot to go through. So I may have to keep you a little bit longer than the hour tonight. But the reason I'll try not to prolong the sub-questions, because like it's an ocean, this particular topic, it's an ocean. And we may not be able to do the greatest justice tonight. Well, we will do it justice, but we may not be able to give all the answers tonight. But it's something that in the future you would like to visit, and any area left, we can come back and then deal with in further shows. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now the sub question I wanted to ask is 2 questions here. You talked about both parties facing it front face, so to speak, head on. And we look at, initially, you will see the natural reaction of the blame culture will kick in. And I wanted to bring also culture into this, whether these are cohabiting couples, whether these are married couples, or whether these people are just boyfriend and girlfriend. For example, you touch on something which is significant, which I have seen a history gone down in the UK here, where 2 people lived together for a long period of time. One of the parties had a child in previous relationship, but with the new partner, after a longer period of time, for over 5 years, could not have a child. And then where the evidence was saying, the one partner said, well, look, I have a child. So for the benefit of not giving which sex had the child, to protect the image and of those people, even though we're not going to name names. Well, the one party said, look, I had a child. It showed that I'm okay. The other party was like, well, I haven't had a child yet, but I don't think I have a problem. Anyway, to cut the long story short, eventually the relationship did not manifest after 5 years and more. And then both parties went separately. The other party, which did not have a child, ended up to have 2 further children after 5 to 7 years in a relationship which he had no child. And the other party, which had previously had a child, had not had any other child since then. This is where the issues was not addressed as a couple, but as a blame culture. Is this something that's also common within your daily lives or your daily routine of cases that you've seen?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's a big part of going through talking to someone about fertility and infertility. It's actually the counseling that we provide them. Okay, just first of all, trying to normalize the issue, because everyone thinks that they're the only one that's experiencing this, especially if your friends have had children. You're seeing people on TV who are pregnant, babies being born everywhere, and you feel, what's wrong with me? And I'd say particularly women feel this pressure a lot more so than the men. So the blame issue, I'll say there are 3 elements to it. There's one where just women will just naturally feel it's their fault because they feel they're the ones that are sort of responsible. So, but as I've explained and as we've touched on, it's a 50-50 issue. Okay, so it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. Okay, it may just be the way it is, and there is support out there that you can be given, and seek advice at the right time, especially if you've been trying for 1 or 2 years without success. And then the next thing is, you have also cultural elements to it. Okay, so there's so many diverse groups of people in London, in Southeast London in particular, but across board, women always feel the pressure more. But when you look at the cultural side of things, so in our African communities, also in the Asian communities, ethnic minority communities in particular, there's so much pressure, okay, on women to conceive when they're in a relationship. Why has it not happened after a few months? I see scenarios where, for example, the man, a man may have gone over to Sierra Leone or whichever country, married someone, and their partner has joined them over here, and 3 months have gone, and they don't, they don't get belay. It's waiting, they go on. They feel so much stress, so much pressure, and the stress and the pressure doesn't help as well. So there is that blame, and that's why when as I say, a woman is usually the one that initiates the consultation. When I say a woman, I always strongly advise that the next time you come and see me, or that I speak to you, make sure your partner is there. Because it's very difficult. I can say to the woman, look, it's a 50-50 issue. It's a male and a female problem. We need to really investigate both of you. But some of them still don't have the confidence to have that discussion with their partner, don't have the confidence at all. So I encourage them, come and see me together. One, it's important so that you can both support each other morally and emotionally. But also, it's a lot easier for me as the doctor, or whoever your doctor is, to tell you what the stats are, that it's a 50-50 issue. And even if they're just sitting there not saying anything, they're just there to support you, but they can hear it from a professional, okay? And then we can encourage them to start the investigation rolling, or to talk about the lifestyle, because a lot of the time, it's not that there's a primary major underlying problem, it's the lifestyle. And we keep coming to lifestyle issues, but our lifestyle, the way we live our life, the things we eat and drink, and those who smoke, it has a big impact on our lives.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Thank you for that very much, Dr. Achmed. It's interesting how you've eloquently put it, and I'm keen to move on now to because you've touched on all the aspects which were the sub questions. You talked about the culture, and you've obviously talked about the blame culture, which And you obviously touched on my next question, which was going to be, is infertility a woman's problem? Or do you want to elaborate on that? I know you said it's 50-50, and you've actually said it's not, and you tend to see both men and women. I'll move away from that because there's so much more. What I wanted to ask, my next question would be, how long should couples try to conceive before they go and knock on your door, the doctor's door, after actually say, you know what, they've confronted each other, they've faced each other, they faced the reality, they've identified that there might be a common problem between the both of us, so to speak, and when can we go and see the doctor to you? How long should they wait? Say, for example, if they've been in an average relationship of 12 to 24 months, as an example.
Yeah, no, good question. So look, so two things. One is you got to have been having regular sexual intercourse. Okay, so not just trying once every 3 months, every 6 months, or once a year even, depending, which happens sometimes because of geographical distances. Okay, and there's a lot of pressure that day, that week that you're together to have to conceive.
Make up for lost
so
time.
if you've been having regular,
yeah, I said make up for lost time. Make up for lost times.
Yeah, exactly. And look, and I'll touch on that. So look, let's say, for example, I mentioned 156 times a year. Now, just imagine the scenario. If you were going to meet up with someone that's a distant relationship for 2 or 3 weeks or even a month, even if you have 156, even if you have intercourse 156 times in that 3 or 4 weeks, your chances are not going to be the same as when you spread it out over the year. And the reason why, and this might be a good point to mention this, the reason why is, one, the woman only ovulates roughly once a month anyway. Okay, so there's, you're not going to increase the chances by doing all that 156 in a month. But also, the man's testicles needs time to rest in order to produce good quality sperm. Okay, so let's say if a man ejaculates today, okay, the ejaculates that will be produced in the next 2 days, in the next 24 hours, in the next 1 or 2 days, it's not going to be of the same quality as the one 2 days ago, because it will be lower volume, and it will be, the sperm will not be swimming around as much as you'd like them to be. Lower concentration as well. Likewise, when you wait for more than a week without having intercourse, when you wait for more than a week, you start to get dead sperm in your testicles. Okay, so the sperm that's produced when you don't have sexual intercourse regularly, you have in general, a low quality sperm. Sperm. Most of them will be dead. They won't be moving around well. So there's a reason why it's got to be every 2 to 3 days, and it's also really important. When a man is doing the sperm test, which we'll touch on later on, it's really important that you do it within the set time of that you advised. So if you, coming back to your question, if you've not had intercourse, if you've been having regular intercourse every 2 to 3 days, 3 times a week for 1 to 2 years, it's got to be at least 12 months of trying before you can really say there's a problem. You should then go and see your GP. Now, and this is where age matters, because this is one of the things you mentioned earlier. If the woman is getting, is in their late 30s, so over 35, getting close to 40, then if you've really been really religiously trying regularly, and that woman has never had a child before, if you've been trying regularly 3 times a week, I say to my patients, look, if you've not succeeded in 6 months, come and see us. Because when a woman starts to get into their late 30s, towards 40, time is really, really important. It's really important that we then start to get the investigations done early. It might not be a female problem, but it's just really important in general, because for the woman, time really does matter. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that a woman is born with all the egg that they're ever going to have. But what we don't know is, we don't know when they're going to run out of eggs. Okay, on average, if let's say you have 100% of the egg you're ever going to have when you're born and at puberty, when you get to about 35, you're only going to have 20% left. Okay, when you get to about 40, you're only going to have about 5% of your total egg reserve left. When you get to about the age of 40, give or take a few percentage points. So it's really, really important that we investigate early. But on average, 12 months to 24 months without success of regularly trying to see a doctor. If you're over the age of 35, 6 months, I always advise go and see a doctor. And that's because it has implications for when you can have NHS-funded IVF, in vitro fertilization treatment in the United Kingdom.
Fantastic. Well done. Interesting the way you've just put it there. Thank you for that, doctor. So I want to move on now to, I think, a question which I should have asked at the start, but it's still not too late yet based on what you've said. And seeing the doctor, okay, we've looked at the problems of who's most likely to be infertile or to have problem with fertility. Now, once couples have come to you, whether it's one party or both parties have come to you, and what are the signs and symptoms? What do you say to them that they should be looking out for if somebody is infertile or is experiencing some form of subfertility?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, a great question. And in a way, these are the questions that we'll be going through with the couples. So let's take the woman, for example. So they're female factors. So there are problems that can happen with your ovulation, your cycle. So if you're not able to release an egg every single month, then that's clearly going to have an impact. Okay. So things that can play with the woman's hormones so that they're not able to do that can have an impact. There's something called polycystic ovary syndrome. Now, this is a fairly common condition. It doesn't mean you are infertile, but it just means that you might not be releasing an egg every single month. And so therefore, it can take a little bit longer to get it right, to know when you're actually ovulating, to have intercourse, if you were going to plan when you have intercourse at the right time of the month, because your cycle will not be a once monthly cycle. It might be once every 6 weeks, once every 8 weeks, once every 3 months or 4 months for some women. So these are some of the things. Now, some women also produce something called prolactin. They produce a lot of prolactin. Prolactin is a hormone that's produced in a very delicate, small, but really, really super important gland in our brain called your pituitary gland. If you produce excess prolactin, it suppresses your ovulation. It stops you from ovulating, meaning that you can't produce any eggs at all. So if you have high prolactin and you have something called a hyperprolactinoma, the way that a woman might become aware of this is that they start to produce milky discharge from their nipples when they're not breastfeeding, or when they haven't just given birth. And so if you notice this and you're a woman, this is a sign of high prolactin. And what you would notice is that your period just stopped. You might, instead of having a period once every month, you'll go from once every month to maybe once every 6 months or once a year or no period at all. And clearly there'll be a change and you will get concerned and see your doctor about that. Now, there are also obstructive causes. So I mentioned, the ovaries produce the egg and the eggs go into the fallopian tube. But if you have scar tissue in your fallopian tube, that can stop the egg from traveling down the fallopian tube and meeting a sperm, or if the sperm manages to get through it because the sperm is much smaller and fertilizes the egg, the fertilized egg will not be able to make its way down the fallopian tube into the womb. And that's, if you have a fertilized egg that gets stuck in the fallopian tube, we call that ectopic pregnancy. It can be very dangerous because the pregnancy develops in the tube and the tube is not big enough to hold the pregnancy. So as the pregnancy gets bigger and bigger and bigger, causes a lot of pain and bleeding, and it's a medical emergency. But what are the things that can cause blockage of a woman's tube? Some of these things include having sexually transmitted infections that are not treated promptly. Okay, and the difficulty with sexually transmitted infections is they don't always produce symptoms. Okay, so the best way to avoid them is to just take precaution. Take precaution. If you're going to have sexual intercourse, especially not with a regular partner, use condoms. Use condoms and test yourself regularly, at least once every 6 months. You might need to do it more regularly, depending on your relationships that you're having at the time. Different if you're with a regular partner. So these untreated sexual infections, sexually transmitted infections, can lead to blockages in the tubes. Now, you also have, I mentioned, once the egg has been fertilized, it has to make its way and then implant itself in the womb. Now, there are things like fibroids, which grow. They're benign growths. They're not cancer. They're just muscular growths. But they can grow and make the womb, the lining of the womb, abnormal. And this can make it very difficult for a fertilized egg to implant itself. So the fertilization happens, but unfortunately, you tend to get a really early miscarriage. It might be even so early the woman doesn't even know that they were pregnant because it doesn't implant. So all of these things. So with a fibroid, the woman might experience this by getting painful, heavy period. They might get bloating of their tummy as if they're pregnant, but they're not pregnant. And as I mentioned, with the prolactinoma, they might get nipple discharge because they're producing a lot of prolactin. And sexually transmitted infections, well, the woman might know that they've had sexually transmitted infections in the past. And if that's happened and you get struggling to conceive, again, that's a reason to see your doctor early, because there are ways that you can be helped to increase your chances of conception. There are lots of other things that we look for. For example, even before these specific illnesses, it's the lifestyle. We know that if you're overweight, significantly overweight, so obese, that can reduce your chances of conceiving, especially if in a woman. If you smoke or if you drink excessive alcohol, those can also reduce your chances of conceiving. We know people who work in certain industries where they use pesticides, which might not necessarily apply to some of the people here, but there are people who work in factories where they use pesticides. That can also impact on your chances of conceiving. Now, for the man, a lot of the issues are to do with blockages in the tubes that move the sperm away from the testicle into the semen. Now, and this may happen because you've had sexually transmitted infections in the past, or other infections. For example, TB can cause infection. Tuberculosis can cause infection of your testicle. And whenever you have an infection or inflammation, you're then left with scar tissue, and the scar tissue can cause blockages. Okay, so things don't flow in the way that they ought to be flowing. Some men have just what we call primary spermatogenic failure. They just don't produce any sperm at all. Now, other times you get your own body's immune system. Okay, so we talked about COVID. So our immune system protects us against infection, but also sometimes it can turn against us, and that can cause inflammation within the tubes in your testicles, in your testes, and that can cause blockages as well. So there are lots of things we ask about. The lifestyle is so important, especially in men. Smoking, excessive alcohol, and not exercising regularly can reduce your chances of conceiving. Being stressed. Now, being stressed is so important. Now, some women can be so stressed, it stops them having a period whatsoever. I mentioned obesity isn't good, but if you're significantly underweight as well, if your BMI is abnormally low, over exercise, the body doesn't like things done in excess. A regular, normal amount of exercise is good, but if you're over exercising or you're so underweight, that can affect your ovulatory cycle and your chances of getting pregnant as well.
Wow. Like, you have just captured everything there in terms of all the signs and the symptoms, and like, literally, well done, Dr. Achmed, for that. Well done. Viewers, you're here, you've just joined us. I'm here with Dr. Achmed Kamara of Doctors to You, and basically this is bringing Doctor to You monthly program on Diaspora Voices. live every first Monday of the month. So again, welcome for all our new viewers. Welcome to all our regular viewers. But please, 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 like I said to you, the line is open. Dr. Achmed would love to take questions live on air, or you can just write your question in the comment box where he's on the other side. He can review it, and I'm on this side as well. I'm reviewing it, and we can I can pass on the questions to him. So it's not just about me just asking all the questions. You may have specific question, and for the benefit of our viewers, if you don't want to give your name or your partner's name, you can use aliases, or you can use a third-party scenario where you can ask those questions relating to any fertility, subfertility, or infertility issues that you may have. So please get on board. Let's engage in this conversation collectively. It's not just, like I said, on Diaspora Voices, every voice matters. So every voice matters. So please, please get involved. I'm going to move on now to my next question, and which you've kind of mentioned in regards to do with age in your opening summary of the program, where you talked about the how it can affect women above the age of 35 and beyond. And but also I do believe, before I move on to that, you mentioned that women are once they reach that puberty, women are born with all their eggs. They carry their bag loads of them, and then they start dropping them and just dropping them and dropping them, and then the bags gets empty and empty. And what about the men? Do they pick up those empty bags or those empty eggs from the ground which the women are dropping? Or do we have that ready, or do we just build our own? Just quickly before I ask my next question.
Yeah, so women, like you said, they're born with all that they have. They don't make any more new eggs in their lifetime. Men continue to make new sperm cyclically. So lots of research have been done. The impact of age on a man's ability to conceive is not as great as the impact of age on a woman's ability to conceive. So time is of the essence, especially for women, not so for men, but it does reduces, because as a man's testosterone level reduces with age, they're not going to be as fertile as they would have been when they were younger, but they can still conceive if everything else is all right.
And also you talked about doing things less, doing things over excessively, which you mentioned when you talked about people that are not exercising. I got excited, and then within a minute later, you hit me with the six, and then said to me, over exercising can also cause an impact. So I'm like, what is this guy doing to me, man? You're telling me about not exercising and keeping fitness and well-being can be an issue. And now you turn around to me and saying, if you're overdoing it too much, you might kill all of those sperm cells in your body. So how do we find the balance for both sexes?
Yeah, I mean, look, exercise, the over-exercising is especially a much bigger impact for women, more so for women than men. And you really, I mean, this is not normal gym, you know, half an hour or 1 hour, 4 or 5 times a week. Okay, this is not running your 5K, 10K, or half marathon once a month. That's not. It's really seriously trained. You know, just constantly on the move, and you tend to get this in people who are elite athletes. Okay, and not just elite athletes, but marathon runners. So if you imagine how
I'm going to challenge you there. I'm sorry, I'm going to challenge you there, and I want us to discuss this. Do you know why? I've got somebody that typically does not fit your description. Sam Mo Farah, to be respectful to him, has come back and has completely defied and your objectives and your rationale that you're giving and saying to over exercising. Or is Sam Mo Farah is somebody who's actually that is doing it right in terms of his body mass, his brain cells, or he's just absolutely got a fantastic partner or wife who, because the man has made double twins. You know what I mean? Like, after his first gold medal, he had twins. And then he went back, and then he got the Olympic medal. He had twins again. So why are you going to tell me if Sam Farah has put on so much work after so much and achieving so many medals, and every time he comes out of his intense training, he delivers to his wife, bam, and it's a twin. And then he goes back into hiding in Kenya and Zimbabwe, wherever he goes, and Somalia, and then come back and bam, twins. So why don't you go and tell Sam Farah, don't over-exercise? So that defies your logic, Dr. Achmed. Come on, enlighten me.
It's a good point. But look, the impact of exercise is much, much bigger on women than men. So for women in particular, if they over-exercise, they can go without a period for years and years and years. And you see this with Olympic athletes. So you'll see for a lot of women, the reason why they stop training for a while, so that they can go and give birth, it's so that they can their periods can restart again. Because when you train so much, you stop having periods. So we had this what's her name? It's female, Paula Radcliffe, okay, yeah. Female marathon runner.
Absolutely.
Used to be world record holder, right? Yeah. Now, so she was only able to give birth after she stopped running and training, and her period came back. But the impact on men is not so much, but for women it's really, really important, and you get it in unhealthy situation. So you may have heard of a condition called anorexia, where sadly some people, not just women, but happens to more women than men, but they just have this body dysmorphism. So they look at themselves, they're of a healthy weight, but in their own eyes, they don't feel they're healthy. They feel they're too big. And so they will constantly be exercising. They're always on the go. They're using the steps, they're walking, they're jogging, they're doing, all sorts of exercise or not eating, and they lose a lot of weight, and that can really impact on their chances of being fertile. The impact on men is not so great. So probably that's why Sam Farah has been able to have double twins, but I'm not sure. I mean, the chances of having double twins, I may need to look him up a little bit to see whether they use any form.
I think you gave the right answer, but I think you gave the right answer. I was just pulling your leg. I think the solution with Sam Farah is the wife, I believe, my understanding is a housewife. So obviously she's well rested. She's already there and ready and waiting. She's prepped and she's primed. All he has to do now is the whole load of bag which has been collected, during the exercise that is coming. And then after achieving, and the way to capitalize the whole success period is by penetrating and bam, bam, twin. Because the wife, the body shape of the wife, the body, everything, the wife is ready. So the wife is not into the intense. I think that's what it is. Is that not so? Or that could be it.
Well, look, I mean, what I was going to say was...
you can do a PhD on Sam Farah. Would you like to?
Yeah, I'll come back to you on that, because to have twins twice, the chances of that happening are so slim that you wonder whether they may have used some form of artificial, assistance, so IVF or something like that. I'm not sure, but I'll need to look into that.
Or maybe, as they usually say, genetically may have gone through one of their families or both families. So I don't know. You're absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, it's interesting, and we're trying to make what's a very intense topic. I just wanted to bring some light into it. That's what it is, because a lot of you are probably going to be very, very anxious and very worried about your fertility status or infertility status or subfertility status. But it's important to make it current and relevant. It shows that we are trying to relate this topic to you, because the key to take home from this, one of these things is about being able to have open conversation with your partner, whoever you're with, if you're having such experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to engage with us. Share your question and share your question with us live, either on the comment box, or you can ask the question, which is on WhatsApp, or direct line is +44 7951 213 881. That's +44 7951 213-881. Dr. Achmed, moving on now. You've seen the patients, you've discussed the signs and symptoms, you've discussed the impact on both couples that have visited you in your Dr. surgery, and we've talked about all of that. Now, let's talk about the type of testing you will be performing on these couples based on what they present to you. So what kind of fertility test will you be undertaking?
Yeah, no, thank you. So look, for the man, it's really important that we do some even, bedside test. So testing the testicles, examining the testicles to check that there isn't any lumps, okay? But also even looking at the penis to check that what we call the urethral meatus, so the hole where the urine comes out of. So just check that it's not, in an abnormal position. So we have something we call hypospadias. So instead of the meatus being at the tip of the penis, it might be, in some men, it's at the bottom. Okay, so you can see how that can cause problems. Some men have not been circumcised, and they may have problems with the foreskin actually being able to come all the way back. So there are a lot of practical things that we can pick up. Or some men may have really, really, really small testicles, which might be a sign of having testicular failure. Or we might examine them and find that there isn't any testicle in the scrotal bag completely. Okay, because
is that a possibility?
Yeah, so one of the examinations we do in boys when children are born is to check at 8 weeks to check whether they have their testicles in the scrotal bag, because the testicles they make their way from inside the tummy, inside the abdomen, all the way out into the scrotum, and they may get stuck at various places. And if it gets stuck, it increases your risk of testicular cancer. But this might not be picked up because, it can be quite difficult to pick up when you're so young, or you might have been born in a country where you didn't have that examination when you were young. And so we go through all of these checks, and then we do some basic tests. You want to check that blood test, check that for diabetes, thyroid function, and testosterone level in particular, because these are factors that can impact on the man's fertility. And beyond that, if all of those come back all right, and we still want to be certain of what might or might not be going on, is we then request a sperm test. Okay, this is where you go and you give a sample of your semen, your sperm, and that gets analyzed in the laboratory, and they can check the volume. Is it do you have enough in there in terms of the volume? And then they look at the concentration of sperm. Are they moving? Are they normal, abnormal? Are they dead? Are they alive, etc.? And that's something that has to be done. When you're told to do that, you have to follow strict instructions. So you've got to do the semen analysis and deliver it within 1 hour to the laboratory. Okay, this can be a challenge and can be very uncomfortable for some men to do it, because often you've got to masturbate and then get an ejaculation and then deliver it. But you've also got to do this. You got to make sure that the day you go and do it, you don't have any ejaculation or intercourse for at least 2 days before you go. You must abstain from sexual intercourse for at least 2 days, but not longer than 7 days, not longer than a week. Okay, because if you have sexual intercourse and then you go the next day, you might just not have enough sperm because you need time to make new ones. If you wait for over a week, you might just have really old sperm. Okay, so you got to follow the instructions. Now, for a woman, we do an abdominal examination, check for things like fibroid. Have they got anything like this? And sometimes, depending on other symptoms the woman might have, because the woman might have been complaining of pain during intercourse, bleeding during intercourse, we might do a vaginal examination or speculum examination to check there isn't any abnormality there. For some women, there is something called vaginismus. Okay, this is where they automatically go into spasm whenever there is any penetration of the vagina, and for that reason, and it's difficult for someone to just come out and say this is the problem. They might not tell you until you do an examination and realize they're going to spasm. So for that reason, they might not even be having intercourse with their partner. We have people who've undergone female circumcision back home. who might have problems in that area, and that might also make it difficult to have intercourse even in the first place. So, you know, lots of things that we need to look for. And then we may do some ultrasound scan test and check again, similar blood test, check their hormones, thyroid function, check for testosterone levels. Some women make too much testosterone, which can be bad for women. Is there any polycystic ovary syndrome? So we do a whole host of tests. And then once we've got all the results, before we decide, well, this is a problem that needs further referrals, so that you can then go and be considered for something like IVF, in vitro fertilization, okay, IUI, intrauterine insemination, or, you know, all the other sort of invasive tests, invasive assisted conception methods. We need to have all of these results. Once we get the results, the sperm tests and all the blood tests, etc., and then we've talked about your lifestyle, because your lifestyle is really, really important. Sometimes all you need to do is stop smoking, don't drink too much, do a bit of exercise, eat healthily, and then have more regular intercourse. And then, boom, it happens. You don't need any assistance at all.
Wow. Let's end it up with not end it up, but let's pick it up from your last statement. Have more regular intercourse. So if then they greedy you now host, you just get you first picking, and then you look for that second picking, and then you find out, say, the ration don't reduce, then maybe do the right thing so that your ration can increase. And then if they increase your portion, maybe likely the second picking will come, so to speak. So that's my advice here. Yeah, what the good doctor have said. So you need to follow up and have more of those, you know, into the system, mama, papa kind of style. So anyway, listen, it's fascinating. We're exactly halfway through the questions, and we've just hit the first hour. I'm going to ask you sincerely, Dr. Achmed, we got quite a lot to go through. We've just gone halfway through the questions. And the first hour was dedicated to the COVID. The second hour, we've started our main topic, which is fertility and infertility and subfertilities. But we've just gone halfway, and we've clocked an hour. We're now at 10 o'clock. Would you like to continue, sir?
Well, look, I mean, I think it'll be really useful to touch on a little bit on maybe IVF and
yeah, because I want to talk about the assisted conception that you mentioned. Yes. But equally, I want to come to questions. We're now beginning to see questions which has come through, and we've got a brother, Mr. Sule Adekunle, which is a prominent member in the community. He's asked two questions, and I want you to address those questions, please. I'd like you to, please. First question, he said, what's responsible for people not being able to conceive a boy? So this is a specific question, which I don't know how the good doctor is going to answer that. The second question Sule has asked, he says, do men need to have all their testicles functioning before they can pregnate a woman? Two good questions. How can you respond to that?
Very good questions. You know, so in terms of having a boy or girl, I mean, this is just probability. It's all about the X and the Y chromosomes. And it's down to us, the men, to be honest, because women only have XX chromosomes. We have XY. So we've got if we have a sperm that has the Y, and that Y sperm then fertilizes the egg, then we'll have a boy. But it's a 50-50 chance. So I think, look, that there's no way that you can predetermine that ahead without doing some sort of assisted conception that's really ethically, you know, it has a lot of ethical complications. So that, you know, say designer babies, for example, choosing deliberately a boy or girl. So yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. Now, in terms of, do you need to have both testicles functioning? No, you only need to have a functioning single testicle, and then you're fine. So some men, for example, who may have had testicular cancer, would have had an occipectomy, or they had tuberculosis of their testicle when they were young. For that reason, that testicle isn't working at all. As long as it hasn't affected the other testicle, and the tubes that lead from that testicle to take the sperm away, then you'll be fine. You'll be able to conceive as long as you still function, you know, it's making sperm. Yeah. You're still on mute, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Mr. Sule Adekule, thank you for that question. I hope the doctor's response has answered your two questions which you've asked eloquently. I just want to move on now. The two segments, one of them was to look at the sperms in terms of what sperms, surgical retrieval, and what's, you know what I mean? What I want you to do in that, basically discussing about the sperm, I don't want to go through the questions. The way you summarize at your intro, can you do the whole summary thing with the sperm thing in under 3 minutes? And then we can move on to discussing two areas, which I will reduce to just two questions. One of them is receiving donors and the ethics of donors in terms of sperm donors I'm referring to. And then we can then talk about the IVF, because I want us to touch base, because next week, as you know, Ramadan starts, and I would like to get your insights from a medical perspective in terms of what preparation can be done for those people that are going to be observing the month of Ramadan, especially those who are going to be fasting specifically. So if you can just talk about the sperm cells, and then just summarizes that and what we need to understand about the sperm cells from both sexes.
Okay, so where the problem is a primarily male problem, and you've done a semen analysis and there just isn't enough sperm or good enough quality sperm, then it might be because there is just blockage. You know, you might actually be making enough sperm, but enough of it is not leaving the testicles. And so one of the things that can be done is a surgical retrieval of the sperm. So, and this is, you know, this is with assisted conception, because you're not making it enough naturally or delivering enough naturally to the woman. So they can surgically remove the good quality sperm that you have got, that you're making, okay, and can artificially then introduce that into the woman at the right time of ovulation. Okay, we call this intrauterine insemination. And the first thing they'll do is well, they'll get a sample of the semen in your testicles and check that you've got good quality sperm in there. And if there's good quality sperm, then they'll deliver it. So that's really all that has to be said with regards to retrieval of sperm surgically.
Sorry, apologies for that. I was just trying to unmute. Yeah, so I'm moving on now. We thank you for that analysis about the retrieval of sperm, basically. One of the key issues that we tend to face, especially from an Afro-Caribbean point of view, we have the issue of donors, whether, you know, I mean, for example, I know now, or both couples are fully aware that they can't, they will not be able to have a baby, so to speak. And we're talking about, however, there is a possibility if they go through IVF, that would be increase their chance and give them opportunities to conceive and have kids, have children going forward. Then you find out these couples are torn between ethics in terms of whether it's religious ethics or culture, whether as people are going to see them able that you is actually na young pikinande or na help you, all of those kind of things like that they may tend to deal with on a day-to-day basis, questions their authenticity, whether this child is there. What can you say about the whole of the IVF and whether it's ethical, whether religion has got a factor to play, whether you're Christians or Muslims in devoted ways, or having to deal with sort of family conception, i.e., I use that pun deliberately, family conception of the ideas to say, well, not to them bondi picking, so to speak. What can you say about that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think, look, it's a very personal thing that you as a couple have got to decide for yourself. And, you know, you go through counseling and then make sure that it's what you want. So in the normal process of IVF, you have the sperm from the man in the relationship. So you're a couple, you have the sperm from the man in the relationship, and then you have the egg from the woman in that relationship. And they retrieve the egg and retrieve the sperm, and put them together in a dish, and the sperm swim to the egg and fertilization happens. Once fertilization happens, they put the embryo back into the woman and pregnancy continues. So is it their baby? Yes, it is their baby. It's genetically their baby because it's their sperm and their egg. Okay, so there's the other scenario where the man might just not have any sperm. So they do the surgical retrieval and there still is no sperm. And therefore, the only way that couple can conceive is by using sperm from someone else. Okay, so you have sperm donors, and there are two types of sperm donors you generally have. Now, I'm not a fertility doctor, but I'm just telling you to the level of my knowledge. So you have two sperm. You have what we call altruistic sperm donors. So these are people who, just because they want to do good to others, okay, they make their sperm available because they want to help couples who are struggling. And these sperms are in sperm banks, and they can be got for you through the fertility clinics. There is obviously a fee for that. You don't know who they are, and then they use the sperm in the same way and fertilize the woman's egg. Now you've got to be, again, emotionally prepared for that as a couple, and there may be certain aspects of that person that you don't know. For example, their genetic history, their past medical history, which might impact on the health of the baby that you're going to have. In the UK, once that child is 18 years old, they have a legal right, if they choose to actually go and find out who their genetic biological father is or was, to find out that detail if they want. So that's the altruistic. And then you have non-sperm donors. This is where the couples actually know the person donating the sperm. It might be a friend, it might be a family member. And I think this is probably even more tricky than when you don't know who the donor is, okay? And because it starts off well and you know who they are and everyone is happy. But you're gonna have a long-term relationship as a friend, as a family member, long-term with that individual. And so you've got to be counseled and be prepared and know that that is the right thing for you and that you're prepared to go through it and you want to do it. And the same goes for egg donors. So you have, sometimes the woman has reached primary ovarian failure and they're not able to make any more eggs at all. And so again, an egg can be donated using their male partner's sperm, have IVF done, and then the embryo is inserted into the woman and pregnancy carries on. And then of course you have surrogacy. This is where a different woman altogether carries the pregnancy, and it may be using the egg of that woman. So you may have a scenario, for example, where someone undergoes cancer treatment, and because of chemotherapy or radiotherapy, they retrieve their eggs before the treatment and save it, and then they later decide to have children. But because they've had surgery or certain treatment, they're not able to carry the baby. So their biological baby is carried by someone else. That's a surrogacy. Or it might be that someone else carries it, but with even someone else's egg or their egg, so it's not even their egg. So there's all these permutations that you can go through when you attend a fertility clinic.
Thank you very much. That was refreshing. There is so much I can unearth from what you've just talked about, Dr. Achmed. There's so much, and a lot of it. If you notice tonight, I have tried to remove this particular conversation away from highlighting it specifically or narrowing it down to our community, i.e. the Salian community. But you've touched on two specific areas which I want to bring to light to the community. But first of all, I wanted to thank Sule Adekule for actually, the word I was looking for at the time was stigma, you understand, which you've touched on, how the community or how the family will deal with the stigma. And you've, so thank you, Sule Adekule, for actually bringing that to my attention. The point I wanted to make now is that I wanted to make community related, is the area of where surrogacy, and then also the donation of the sperm, i.e. allowing a friend or an unknown to donate the sperm. You know, we don't see this in our community culturally because it's almost unspoken of. It's almost the things which I highlighted where people might say, well, as the stigma, as the word Adekule used, stigma is the child is not yours, or you know what I mean, or even the couple themselves will feel inadequate to feel whether they are the biological parents to this child which is being given. So you will find out that many of us will opt for the option of adoption instead, as to rather than increase. Why do you think as a Sierra Leonean, it's very difficult, or Afro-Caribbean, so to speak, it's very difficult for us to pursue those avenues of actually seeking either surrogacy or going for an anonymous donor, or even having the very big decision of allowing a friend to fertilize the egg of your wife, who might likely be the father. And I saw a movie many a year ago, a Nigerian movie, when my best friend got my wife pregnant. That was the movie title. And yes, it was. It's on YouTube, where it's interesting what unfolded. Basically, the relationship and the journey which the movie took us through was not about the conception only. It was about the journey that evolved with this triangular relationship, where all of a sudden the father, who was the donor, demanded that he wants a relationship with this woman because he had fallen in love with a woman, you understand? Because of he felt attached because the son, because he played a part, he became the godfather, so to speak, to the boy, but he wanted more. He saw his best friend, who was the genuine husband, as inept, inadequate, even though that the husband who could not have the baby was successful in his rights in terms of he was well earning and everything, but this friend was just one of those laddish, but he had the manpower, so to speak, to pregnate the wife. And then he demanded, I want to be with this woman, this child is mine, it's not yours. And the woman got caught up in the triangle. You know what I mean? I know I'm trying to take this along, but it's something that you may not have the answer from a medical point, but is this something that we tend to see in our community, in our culture, hence the reason why people hold back?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a big emotional roller coaster for any couple to go through assisted conception in general, whether it's their biological eggs and sperms or whether it's using that of a donor. And it's, I don't think it's necessarily just something that's limited to our community, because I see it as an emotional thing for lots of couples. You know, everyone sees having a relationship, or especially, you know, married couples, but they don't necessarily have to be married, but if you're together as partners, they see the ultimate symbolism of that relationship as having children. And that can be a lot of pressure. And I think you know, some of it is cultural, some of it is religious, but ultimately it's got to be down to you and your partner and how you approach it and how you address it, and being there and supporting each other emotionally. And because, like you said, there is a lot more to a relationship than having a child. And you know, you can have children with donors, you can adopt, you can foster, and it all just really depends on your own perspective on it. And I think you've got to do what's right for you as a couple. Now, with the donation and who is the biological parent, it is very tricky when it's a known donor. It becomes very tricky because there's a lot of emotions there. There's a lot of emotion. You know, imagine you've donated, you know, the donor sees the child growing up. They're not being referred to as the father. and they see themselves in that child, and it becomes very difficult. But at the same time, they decided to donate the egg in the beginning. Now the couple who received the donation, they've also got to be prepared that this might happen. In the UK, when the child gets to 18, they have the legal right, where it's a known donor, they have the legal right to find out who their biological parent was or is. So that can, that's something they've got to be prepared for as well. There isn't any right or wrong answer, but I think you just don't go into it blindfolded. You've got to go into it with eyes wide open, have frank, honest discussions, and make sure you're prepared for any comebacks, any eventualities.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Dr. Achmed. It's interesting how this conversation is running, and there is no what the word I'm looking for. There is no wrong person here, as in who will, if anybody is unable to produce the perfect sperm, so to speak, or fertile person, whether it's the male person or the female person, and there is no one wrong person. You've touched on this at the start of the program. It's a collective responsibility, and all parties has to come and be open and be frank once they started identifying risk factors. Say, well, look, we're having multiple and a good sexual relationship, and then but yet we've been together for almost 2 years, nothing has happened. It's like, okay, in certain cases, people don't speak of children, but in these cases, they've spoken about starting a family, and then yet nothing has happened. You've spoken about anxiety, stress. You've spoken about under activity, over activities. You talked about weight issues, whether being very heavily underweight or obesely overweight, we can affect you. Before we summarize on this program, there's one thing which you haven't spoken about, which we talked about just before we got on air. And in terms of, we usually say in the statements, which I often say, use, is not the size of the ocean, but it's the motion of the ocean. Is that a factor? And how can one deal with it? Because sometimes you like me, you like me. I can see you're laughing. We need to have, I've given you at the top hour a lighter humor. I have to be very cautious because we still have kids probably watching, or some parents are watching with their children. But what does size have to do with infertility? Because we've seen it commonly in the community to say, hey, well, now because why be there with this man? Because mojo issue, now that make I not be born picking. But when see I left and when see I go to Long John Silver, now I make a born picking. Well, the doctor, can you answer that question? Is it the size of the ocean or the motion of the ocean?
Look, with the most serious face that I can put on.
Well, yeah. snap out of it, Dr. Achmed. I got you did that. Look, I left the last question so that you can be very serious. Go on.
What I'd say is, look, size has nothing to do with this. Absolutely nothing to do with this at all. And it's all to do with the quality of the sperm, the frequency of the sexual intercourse that you have with your couple, and whether the woman is also producing egg. And are you having intercourse often enough at the right time? That's what matters. I've seen, in my job, part of what I have to do is examine, testicles and penises, and you have male infertility with all size testicles. The only thing that I would say is, if you have no testicle in your scrotal bag at all, then that's going to be a problem. Yeah, that's the only one size issue that will be a problem, because it means you don't have the tools to make sperm. That's the only thing. Now, where size becomes an issue as well is, as we touched before, on the female side, is in women who've had female circumcision. Depending on the you know, the term FGM is a little bit harsh sometimes. So I prefer female circumcision. Depending on the type of circumcision that they've had, it can make it very difficult for them to want to have sexual intercourse. Or it can sometimes even make it difficult to have penetrative intercourse. And if that's not happening, then it's going to be difficult to have. So those are the two sides issues on both sides that I can sort of talk about being a factor.
Mm. Fantastic. I'm very, very cautious. You've just touched on something which I don't think we have time. I would love to address that issue on another fertility topic because we didn't even touch on it. What does circumcision, either in male, which you touched on actually on the male area, but you didn't touch on it so much on the female area. What does circumcision has to do with the possibility of becoming fertile or not, or infertile? That's something I don't want you to answer to it. But the question I want to ask tonight as my last question on this before we go on to talk about Ramadan so that we can finish in time is, what is the likelihood for somebody in the early age, a female specifically, who has had a let's say not miscarriages alone, but abortions, because where women are consciously in their early age out of career choice or in terms of ethical or unethical reason, maybe you've had a partner who you are with and that person is not your husband and you're the girlfriend, and they see, and you know what I mean? And then you've had to have conscious abortion and all of that stuff. And then at a later stage in your life, when one wants to start a family and then nothing happens, so to speak, how can that affect that woman specifically, psychologically? Can they recall back to their early days when they've had, let's say, the average 2.4 abortions, or, you know what I mean, or miscarriages? Does that have any role to play with infertility at a later stage?
Such an important point.
See, I can ask serious question as well, isn't it? You see the switch?
Yes, yeah. No, I mean, I'm really impressed. Always impressed, actually, not just today. But look, a woman is at their most fertile around between the ages of 18 and 22 years old. Now, some of us will go, oh no, that's when they're meant to be going to university and studying and being responsible. But that is the truth. Remember, a woman is born with all their eggs, okay? And then they produce one every single month, etc. We've gone through that. When they get to 35 years old, they only have roughly about 20% of the eggs that they had at the start of puberty. When they get to 40 years old, they only have 5% of the egg they had at the start of puberty. So now, with age in a woman, the chances of conceiving goes lower because of that reason. And so just naturally, whether or not you had abortion at a young age or didn't have abortion, because of this time factor and age and the fact that a woman never makes any new egg from when they're born, your chance of conceiving are going to become less and less as you get older. But yeah, for some women, it may then become a psychological issue. You know, perhaps they may look back and maybe they may have some regrets about, well, you know, was it the right decision that they made? And I can't answer that question, you know, and maybe even they cannot answer that question. But at the time, it felt right, and that was the right decision for them at the time. It's, you know, it's never easy to make those decisions. But the question about the abortion is not just whether you had an abortion, but was it a safe abortion that you had, right? Because if you have an unsafe abortion, then the likelihood of developing scar tissue in your fallopian tubes and developing sexually transmitted infections or just pelvic infections in general are much higher. And you then, you know, you're going to reduce the chance of that egg making its way from the ovaries down the fallopian tube into the womb. So if you're going to have an abortion, make sure it's a safe abortion. Okay, I mean, for those who are in, you know, countries like the UK and other European countries, the States as well, it is a lot easier to access safe abortion practices. Maybe a lot more tricky for you know, our sisters back in Sierra Leone and other parts, other developing countries or low-income countries. So that's all I'll say really with regards to the abortion. But yeah, I mean, you know, any decision we all make, it doesn't have to be with abortion. Any decision that we make that we later on in life think may have altered the course of our life does play up in our mind, and it may well bring up some psychological issues. And that can cause an added stress, and stress doesn't help at all. And if you're getting stress when you're in your 30s, 35, going to 40, and your eggs are already running low, and you're stressed, we know stress doesn't naturally help the process of conception anyway. So, you know, it's a double whammy, isn't it?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Achmed. It's been fascinating, and it's been to our viewers out there. I hope that Dr. Achmed from Doctors to You has been able to address a lot of the issues or some of the concerns that you may be thinking about in the last many years in your life, whether you are as a single person or as a couple. But I think one of the take-home messages that we need to take on board here is ultimately what we need to do as couples, if you are identifying where there is a possibility or there is a risk of fertility issue, have an open conversation, speak about it, have a relationship. If you are going to go to bed with somebody, whether a man and a woman going to bed together, and then you're going to be having intercourse, then why not be able to talk about the issues that may affect you developing a family? You understand? So if you said, okay, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and you've gone to the ultimate possibility of going and saying, I do, then you find yourself a year down the line where you've addressed the issue of child and children and nothing has happened. Don't point the finger at one person. Don't point the finger at the other person. Go back and look at the things that are possible to increasing the opportunities of having child or children together. Speak openly about it. Seek the professional help first of all. And if you're unable to seek professional help at the start, find somebody that you trust, that you can candidly open. It could be an older person in the family, older relative. Confide in them. Say, don't say, I think my wife has got an issue. Start the conversation. If you're the man saying, I think I have an issue, I'm unable to get my wife pregnant. You understand? And or alternatively, if you're the woman, say, I think I have an issue. I'm unable to make my husband satisfy me enough so that I can become pregnant. Don't go to your parent or your best friend or your GP and saying, my husband is unable to make me pregnant. You understand? Don't go to the family members that are going to come down and attack your wife and say, why is your wife not conceiving? He's the firstborn of the family. You should be giving him a son or child by now. Don't look at that. Look at the picture holistically, where the two of you, hand in hand, whether as Muslim or as Christian or as mixed marriages, whatever you wear, whichever religion you wear, that held hand and said, I do. Or if you're both cohabitants together that have lived long enough and wanted to now to start a family, then address this issue head on as united couple. And if the professional, the doctors can tell you that, I think there is a problem and both of you may have issues, but we can help, deal with this help collectively. No one person comes around and said, if you not be don't pull belly where you be 14-year-old or where you 17-year-old. No. Don't say to the husband, if you didn't go and get other women pregnant and then ask them to take it out, you would have. No. We don't want to hear none of this. What we want to hear is about how well can we tackle this? We've still got time. I'm just about the age of 45. My wife is just about the age of 38. So there is still ample time for us to go out there and make that children. We've seen pregnancy comes at very late stage in life where women have become pregnant as late as 60 years old because we know it's a God-given natural gift. You understand? For those of us that are committed Christians, Muslim, or whatever religious faith we belong to. So it is possible. But what you need to do is removing the embargoes, the stress, the packages, and then also increasing the chances. If you are excessive in alcohol intake, stop the alcohol. If you are addicted in smoking, chain smoking, then stop the smoking collectively. If you're somebody that is excessively overworking your body, you're doing 14-hour shifts, and then you want to go to the gym and then having the perfect body, maybe cut down on your working hours, cut down on your exercise routine. If you're somebody that thinks, the whole of the world issues is my issues, my family issues, my life issues, the possibility of having kids, that thought alone is weighing you down. Relax, take those time, take short breaks, many short breaks, increase the opportunities. And more importantly, from what the doctor has said, have boku sex. You never know. It's like playing the lottery, you know what I mean? You have to be in it to win it. So ultimately, you have to have regular intercourse to increase the opportunities of becoming or making each other happy and developing and creating a family home. And if all that, maybe the possibility will work out. That's my summary on that topic. I'll also allow Dr. Achmed to summarize his, and then we will have a 10-minute conversation on Ramadan, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Dr. Achmed, I hope I haven't stolen some of your lines. Over to you.
I think you've got it. You've said it all in a nutshell. Look, thank you so much. That's a beautiful, beautiful summary. I mean, all I would say is just some bullet points. Look, like you said, have an open, honest conversation, okay? And then seek help. Maybe seek independent professional help rather than from someone who's going to interfere with your relationship. It's a 50-50 issue, okay? Men and women equally contribute to difficulties in fertility. Have regular sexual intercourse. What's regular? Every 2 to 3 days, roughly 3 times a week. And watch your lifestyle. Don't smoke if you smoke. Especially, you can stop whilst you're trying to, conceive. Stop for a period, and reduce the amount of alcohol that you drink if you drink. Have a healthy diet. Exercise regularly, but not excessively. Have a healthy weight, and relax. Try not to stress. Like DJ Little said, don't take the whole world's problem and put it on yourself. Try not to stress. Some people say, well, look, when is the right time to have intercourse? There is an optimal time, but the reason why I haven't touched on that and I tend not to go into that with couples, it's because it puts so much stress on that particular time to the point where they're so stressed they don't even enjoy the whole process of having intercourse, and then it becomes just doing it for the sake of doing it, and every month is stress and the relationship gets worse and worse and worse. Well, listen, I wish you well. If you've had problems with fertility, or you know anyone who's had problems with fertility, if you have any questions, anything you want to discuss in private that you were not too confident to bring up here today, you can reach out to us on Dr2YOU at www.dr2you.co.uk. And send the DJ Little a message, and he will get in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. You understand? I could not concur with you more on your last statement, which you says, don't book sexual appointments with each other. I don't think, personally, I stand against that profusely. I reject it. You understand? Where you have a calendar date to map out what day you're going to have sex with your partner. And I think that's the most dangerous game in any relationship. I think there should be no set days as to what days each partner or each couple should have a sex, to say, okay, right, tonight we're going to have sex. No, it shouldn't be. It should come out naturally. It's a chemistry. You know what I mean? It's about having the formula that makes it work. And if it does come together and it works, and then you will create something angelic. You understand? But you don't want to say second, 5, 5th, 7, 9. Those are not how you do it. And I know stress can add to that factor. It's about let it happen. Let it be natural, as the doctor has said. So that way we can do it. But ladies and gentlemen, that's enough about the sexual education for the day. We hope that you've enjoyed it. You've appreciated the information that has been decimated to you and all. And the good doctor said there's a lot more you can find out on Doctors2You website. Go there, read, and then for more personalized and more focused, reach out to Dr. Achmed and privately, and he will be able to signpost you or support you. And where he couldn't, he will refer you to the appropriate specialist for whatever you may need support to. If you are a family and you're a couple tonight who has watched this program and feel that you will need further assistance and you've been really, really affected, but this has opened up some significant way for you to move forward and has supported you in terms of relaxing your mindset, please do not hesitate to contact myself, DJ Little, or my brother DJ Ish, or Dr. Achmed from DR2YOU, we will be able to as I said, signpost you to the appropriate support. And there are so many, if you live in the United Kingdom and Ireland, there are so many supporting websites which can support you. If you don't want to use Dr. Achmed, so you can go into Public Health England and type out whatever concerns you have. So just go into the PHE website. Many of us in the last 12 months plus has now become very au fait with Public Health England. So please utilize that. If you live in Scotland, you go to Public Health Scotland and so on. Wales, Public Health Wales, Northern Ireland, Public Health Northern Ireland. If you're Sierra Leonean or non-Sierra Leonean, please utilize and get the support, because ultimately what we're here today to create is to be able to empower you so that you are able to seek help. We want every child, every family to be able, every couple to be able to develop a family together of their own. And if we have been able to support you tonight, we are grateful that the information that the doctor has provided to us all. And if you're outside of the UK and Ireland, and equally you found this information very useful, seek help in whatever public health organization you belong to, whether in the United States, Australia, or in Sierra Leone, or wherever. Please seek help and get help, okay? And most importantly, my last word on this would be, don't apply the blame culture. Thank you. Let's move on. Ramadan starts on the Tuesday, the 12th of May, Tuesday, the 13th of May to Wednesday.
April.
Let me start again. Tuesday, the 13th of April to the 12th of May. I'm conscious of Ramadan to come and go straight away. That's how fast tracking, Dr. Achmed. So we start Ramadan on Tuesday, the 13th of April to Wednesday, the 12th of May. And many of us who are Muslims are looking forward to this. Gratefully, it's the one time of the year which we come together. There are other periods in the Ramadan in Islamic calendar which one can fast as well. In every month of the Islamic calendar, there are fastings which are set. But Ramadan, as we all know, is what you call in English language, I'm not going to use the Arabic, it's statutory, it's mandatory. You have to fast if you're Muslim. That's 1 month in the Ramadan in the Muslim calendar which you must fast. If you're able, you're healthy, and you are willing to do it, you should be able to do it as a person who is of an adult age and responsible. And for other reasons, if you're not, for medical reasons, cannot fast, there are other ways that you can make sure that you've covered your own rights, so to speak, that you've pay your dues, so to speak, within the Ramadan month. But tonight, we're just going to touch base, just in summary, what preparation we need to put together from a medical point of view. So we've got Dr. Achmed here in terms of who are the people that are most likely to avoid fasting or to evade fasting, so to speak, because of underlying health issues, and why should they not do it? Because some of these people will have all these underlying health issues, but they feel it's within their rights to deliver this statutory law, or the sunnah, as they say in Arabic, of the Islamic. They want to fast in Ramadan. So Dr. Achmed is just going to give us a brief advice on this and what preparation and how can we. And thankfully, the time is much more improving. We no longer have to fast the 18 hours that we saw, or the 16 hours. We're now moving on to that 12 to 14 hours fast, which is still long enough for certain adult Muslim people or older relatives as well who may want to see it. We've seen the lockdown has increased, has made people become committed to their faith. However, when it comes to Ramadan, you understand, the focus here is not, we're not going to tell you the sunnah, the ethics. It's all about health. Why should you not fast? Specifically, if you have other health and underlying issues in the month of Ramadan, and what you can do from a medical point to prepare yourself so that you are able to fast in future Ramadans to come. Dr. Achmed, over to you.
Thank you so much. It is a very, very, important subject. And look, ultimately, let's say it's a personal decision, right? Whether you fast or not. But, from the little that I know, it also states that you shouldn't do anything to harm your body, okay? And if you've got an underlying illness that through fasting will make you become more unwell, then you shouldn't do that. But if you're not sure, speak to your imam, and they will reassure you and make things a lot clearer for you. Now, in terms of being healthy, and it's really important, you don't want to go through Ramadan and then be more unhealthy or more sick, needing hospital admission either during the month of Ramadan or at the end of it, because your health has deteriorated. You want to take steps so that you stay as healthy as possible. Patients who tend to be more at risk include those who've got underlying heart disease, underlying kidney disease, diabetes as well, and if you've also had stroke, and that is because of the way these illnesses affect the body. So someone who's got kidney disease or heart disease, their fluid balance is really, really important. So significant changes to the amount of fluid you have on board, whether you have too little or too much, can impact on your condition. Okay, so you can become severely, significantly dehydrated because you're going for long periods without drinking. And if you've got underlying kidney failure, that can make your kidney function worse. And if you're, for example, close to needing dialysis, that can push you towards dialysis. So it's got to be, really not a good idea to fast if you've got a significant kidney failure. But also if you've got underlying heart disease, now, your heart struggles with getting the fluid and pumping the blood around your body. So, fasting can actually then make it a bit easier for your heart to do that. But your heart is doing that with the aid of certain medications. Now, if you're not taking in the same amount of fluid that you're taking, then those medications are going to dehydrate you because you're taking water tablets, you're taking other pills that can affect your kidney. And if you're not taking on board enough fluid, that's going to affect your kidneys again. And so it's really important that if you do have those conditions and you decide to fast, speak to your doctor, okay? Speak to your specialist nurse, speak to your GP, because there are ways to do it safely. It might be that you come off certain medications during that time, or you change the times that you take your medications, but do it with advice. Now we'll come on to diabetes. With diabetes, as we know, it's all to do with sugar level, and our sugar level is impacted upon significantly by what we eat, and particularly by carbohydrates. Okay, so if someone is on a medication that lowers your sugar, especially if you're on insulin, okay, insulin can rapidly change your sugar level. Your chance of your sugar dropping to a very low level is going to be much higher, something called hypoglycemia, and that can put you into a coma. That can make you have a seizure. And so it's really super duper important that, again, if you do decide to fast, you won't be expected to, and I don't think any imam will expect you to fast if you've got any of those conditions. But if you do decide as your personal decision to fast, speak to your doctor, specialist nurse, your physician in hospital, so that they advise you how to do it safely. You might need to take less insulin. You might need to cut back on some of your medication. You might need to change the time that you take your medications. And then also making sure that when you do break fast, that you're catching up with fluid, that you're rehydrating yourself. But also that you're not just overeating anything that's out there, that you're eating healthily. You're eating carbohydrates that release sugar slowly. So not just loads of pap, for example, or sugary drinks. Brown rice. They release the carbohydrates slowly and throughout the day to keep your sugar level at a constant, safe level. So the key messages here is, you don't do anything that's going to potentially harm you, make you worse than what your condition already is. And if you do decide to fast, seek medical advice to see how best this can be done in the safest possible way, perhaps making changes to your medications. And if you become unwell once you're fasting and you've already made these changes and you've got these underlying conditions, you've got to have a really, really low threshold to breaking the fast, right? So if your sugar level drops, so someone with diabetes, you need to be testing your sugar more regularly, your sugar level more regularly during the Ramadan, because it can swing and you might not get any warning at all. But if your sugar level drops to a dangerously low level, please don't carry on fasting because you want to get to the end. Break the fast. It's much safer. If it drops too low, you can have a seizure, you can go into a coma. Yeah, so just be safe. Be safe.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And one last question on the Ramadan issue topic is if one has actually actively had COVID, because we're in COVID time, so that's why I'm bringing this question. One has had COVID, let's say within the last 6 months, and they've recovered well from the COVID, but they're still having some sort of effect from the COVID, which would be not necessarily long COVID, as in somebody who has actually suffered longer, has been in intensive care, recovered, and has other underlying issues, but somebody who has actually had COVID to the possibility that either been hospitalized for a few days or a week or so, but have come and have still having one or two issues like the fatigue, or they feel that certain thing is not right, but they are not on medication. Can these people feel as if they can fast medically, or do they need to speak to their imams to see how best ways they can mitigate their contribution towards the Ramadan?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, even amongst those people, the impact medically on them will be different from patient to patient. And so the first thing is have a discussion with your doctor, your general practitioner, to check, are you healthy enough to take on the task of fasting? And as you mentioned, 10, 12 hours or 12, 14 hours is quite a significant length of time to go without eating or drinking if you're not feeling well. And if it's not safe, then look, speak to your imam and get second opinion, or get the religious reassurance that you probably need, because a lot of people will feel really like a religious guilt for not fasting. But speak to them, and there are other ways that you can make your contribution during the month of Ramadan. And if it's deemed not safe for you to fast, the bottom line is, look, if you're not feeling well, don't fast. If you're not feeling well, don't do something that can potentially harm you. If you're feeling well and you're medically fit and you've been told that your blood tests are all fine and you're feeling well, then yeah, I mean, you give it a try. I mean, I have patients who have some of these medical problems, but we negotiate ways, we find ways for them to do it in a safe way. And I say, look, if you really, really want to do this, why don't you see how the first couple of days go, first week, and then maybe we do a blood test. You monitor what you can monitor at home, and then we'll make a decision. And we can, make sure it doesn't have an adverse impact on you, because, everyone is an adult, and ultimately it's up to that person to make the decision. But we just want you to do it in a safe way.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said to you, we were not here to talk about the religious ethics on fasting and Ramadan and all of that. It was purely to get the medical advice and the medical guidance as to what you need to do if you are somebody who is under medication, who is unwell, and all of that stuff. And the advice of Dr. Achmed is not to say you that the doctor don't say, hey, mean I'm Muslim, but I'm not for fast. No, it's nothing like that. It's a medical guidance that is out there. And ultimately, if you hear from what the doctor's been saying, he's constantly referring you and I as the observer to go to our own imams to seek further advice, where we can be guided in terms of the religious guidance as to why we must or mustn't fast for other reasons. So I want to thank the good doctor to you tonight, and I want to really, really apologize for taking your time for such a long time tonight. And as I said to you, we've only got you once every month, and we want to maximize that opportunity. And you're a very, very kind man, sir. And I appreciate you and your family on behalf of myself and my brother, DJ Ish, who's not here tonight, and the team of Diaspora Voices as well. So we really appreciate your contributions and your efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, my weekly talk this week will be coming. As you know, you see I put out my blog videos, which come out every week now. So this week, my topic will be specifically, I'm hoping to get that video to you guys by Wednesday. And this time I will be talking about interreligious marriage. So I'll be talking about interreligious marriage. Again, I always come out from my own perspective. And so I use myself as a sample case and what I know. I tend not to give any reasons on any other person. So like I said, I've been doing a lot of work in the last few days trying to get an understanding about interreligious marriage, not just in Sierra Leone, but across board. So that video will be coming out to you guys this week. Look out for it. No later than Wednesday. It will be coming out, where you will see how interreligious marriage has been the only form of union that held Sierra Leone together, because tribes and tribalism has not held the nation together. But I think one of my giveaway I can give you guys today, as I said to you, Sierra Leone to date stands as the most religiously tolerant country in the world. And for that reason, we allow interreligious marriage with very little embargo. Of late, we're seeing constraints where religion has factored in terms of why people should not marry, in terms of disparity of religion. But what has held us together is interreligious marriage and how it has worked in many, many homes despite the challenges. So I will be talking about that, and I hope you will share and follow me on that blog going forward. I want to say also on Saturday this week, and I'm sure the good doctor is going to do it, we're celebrating the 1 year lockdown of the pack run exercise between Countdown, CAD HR, and the Health Partnership Program, and all of our partners that have supported us since we started the lockdown exercise. So all you need to do is to deliver a 5K or 10K run, which you can do. If you're doing the 10K, you can do that in an hour. If you're doing the 5K run, you can do that in 30 minutes. And then, but we're asking for your donations. Your donation to register is just £10. That money will go towards all our charities that we've supported across myself and DJ Ish, which is Breast Cancer UK, Prostate Cancer UK, Countdown Men's Health, and the Health Partnership Program, where we're raising money for the World 2 Cancer Project. So these are the reason why you should come around and donate the £10. It's not going directly into our pockets, but we'll ask you, so you can be wherever you are across the country, and then do your race, take a screenshot of your time, send it to myself, DJ Ish, or Aisatulako of the walking team, and then that amount of money, every participant will receive a medal a week after their race, because we want to appreciate you for your efforts and that you've done. So I want to say thank you to everybody that has been on board. Thank you to all those who have sponsored us over the years gone by, since we started the exercise program last year, as well as the year before in 2019 when Dr. Achmed kicked, and all of these people have been around supporting us. So thank you for that. And I want to say at this moment, as I did say to you, I'm not going to let that go. I just want to read this statement, Dr. Achmed, because today is my stepfather's birthday. And I hate that word step, you know what I mean, in this context, because it's heavily weighing on my shoulder, because I don't want to use, because when somebody's been in your life since when you were the age about 10, 11 years old, and then they've been absolutely significant part of your life growing up, you don't want to use the word step. Even though I am blessed with having my biological father around and who has equally played a significant role in my life, I've always said I'm a gifted and blessed guy that have two father figures. Many children to date in this world do not have the opportunity of even a single father. I have not two. I can put my finger to 3 people whom I can say have been father figures and have been inspirational. But tonight and today, I just want to say happy birthday to my other father, because I prefer that word. I always say to him when I talk to him, I usually prefer the word other father rather than stepfather. The great, the legendary Mr. Ayo Eddie Roy Macaulay, CEO of Sabano 75 and Sabano International. And this was my message today, and I just want to read it out to you guys. And I want to say to him, happy birthday to you. To God Almighty be the glory. Happy birthday to my dad, Mr. Ayo. Wishing you many blessings on this special day. All the time, I pinch myself and I say how lucky I am to have 2 important men in my life whom I am privileged to call fathers. My biological father and you. As a dad, you have been in my life as a young boy growing up to now. I am thankful for your life. I pray that the good Lord Almighty continue to grant you excellent health. You are not only inspirational to our mother, Muzardin, but you extended the love to the entire family. On behalf of me, my brother, and my own family, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I pray for many more healthy years to come in your life. Happy birthday, Sir Ayo, aka Granddad Ayo, as you know. So happy birthday, Granddad, and wish you many, many. And I do apologize, and I hope that I was making some videos today. That's why I wasn't able to touch base there for long. But I hope to pass by again tomorrow after work so that we don't hug, because you can't hug the grandparents, but we can fist bump somewhere. Okay. Hope to see you soon. Dr. Ahmed, thank you. God bless you, sir. And apologies once again for taking your time. It's exactly 11 o'clock, and I must let you dash. Thank you. Stay safe. Any last word, anybody that you want to wish well within this month?
Happy birthday to your father, and wish him well, and yeah, I think it's really important we recognize our parents. Yeah, and I give love and thanks to my parents too. Thank you, DJ Little.
Thank you very much. Auntie Betty B for Toshpa, please give me a call. We need to have a conversation. Give me a call in the next 15 minutes. Thank you. We'll play you out Innocent. I hope you like it. Dr. Achmed.
Yes.
Well done.